Hey, this is Ami from GonzoViz, gonzoviz.com, on Instagram at GonzoViz. Today I'm going to show you how to create your own DIY animation rig. For those of you who want to start doing some fun animation right away and don't want to spend a lot of money doing it. Here we go. Check it out. There we go. Woo! So, what you're going to need to make your animation rig is a few things. First, we're going to need a cardboard box, the small size, quote unquote, small size, which is 12 by 12 by 16 inches. It doesn't need to be exactly that size, but approximately that size is going to be good. And you'll see, as I showed you before, this is the best size to be able to set up your rig, have your paper, get everything in frame, and set up your camera. So around 12 by 12 by 16, some variations, you want it high enough off the ground that your camera can be in a position to capture the entire paper. If you guys, anyone here gets Hello Fresh deliveries or something like that, those boxes are good too. They can work. They're a little bit different size, but they're fine. So just something in that general size is good. You're gonna need a box cutter or utility knife. Make sure your blade is sharp. You know, dull blades are a little dangerous, so make sure you have a brand new sharp blade in there. We're gonna need some paper, preferably 8.5 by 11 paper, or if you're in Europe, an A4. It doesn't really matter, approximately that size. You just want to make sure that the paper you're using is consistent size, because we're gonna set up a registration option, and we're going to make sure we need every paper to be the same size. So if you have multiple size papers, it's going to be hard because you're not going to have registration correct. And ink registration is pretty important in animation, as we know. Also, I want some tape. I use this frog tape, which is nice. Any sort of like masking tape or art tape that's going to just hold down nicely. We're going to need to create a registration with the tape, and also going to need to hold down our animation rig. So it needs to be strong enough to hold down this cardboard box as well to your surface. You're going to need a surface. This is a nice utility table I have here out on my porch, and that's what I'm going to use. Any like large table will be good. You're gonna put tape, and you're gonna cut. Make sure you protect your table. I have a cutting mat here, which I use to cut. Also, when you're gonna put the tape down, so if you have a really fancy table with a fancy finish, you might want to be careful. But most tables, as long as your tape is not something you don't use Gorilla Tape or something crazy. If it's a kind of a painter's tape, it should be okay. But I just test whatever tape you use and make sure again you're not gonna mess up your surface. But you want to have a nice big surface to work. So we're going to start with that. And so we're going to start by cutting up our box. Okay, so have our box. What we want to do is first we want to close the top. We're taking out my frog tape. Fix the camera so you can see. As neatly as possible, so you have you want to do it as tight as possible so that your box does not move. Again, like the whole idea with registration in the animation rig is to get some proper registration when you shoot your animation. So you want to make sure things are not moving as much as possible. So tape your box as tight as possible. You can put a few pieces. So here we go. So we have the top of the box set up like that. Now we're going to do some cutting of this box. So the first thing we want to do on the top of the box is we're going to cut a little hole in the top of the box, and this is where our camera is going to go. Let's see. On the top of the box, we're going to cut ourselves a little. Try to be as centered as possible. So we cut ourselves like a 3 by 3 inch, even like a 2 by 2 inch hole, just so your camera can fit in there. So in the center of the box, and you don't have to like measure it out, just approximate. You just don't want your hole to be too big, because then your camera might fall through or something. You don't want it too small, so you can't properly position it. Different phones or iPads have different placements of the camera, so you just want to make sure that yours can be placed correctly. So cut it out, have a little square, a little hole on the top of my box, and we're good to go. Next thing we want to do is we're going to cut out each side of the box. We're going to cut a hole in each side of the box. So what I want to do is I want to leave enough space to maintain the structure of the box, but I don't want to give enough space that light can come into the box and everything. So what I'm going to do is cut across. I basically cut a window into each side. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to leave enough space on the side that your box remains structurally intact, but at the same time leaving enough space that we're going to add so light can get in, and we can also access our paper when we shoot it. So this will take a few minutes. Take your time. Almost done with cutting this box. I have not yet cut my hand, so that's good. I won't have to have a first aid break in this video. Alright, so now I have, as you can see, my box cut out of the top hole, and the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the sides on the short sides of the box, but I'm going to cut the long flaps out to get them out of the way as well. I'm going to leave the short ones because that's what I'm going to use to hold my rig down. Let's see. But I'm going to cut the long sides off just to get them out of the way. All right, so now I have basically everything cut out. The next thing I'm going to do is add some paper to two sides of this box. That's in order to let light in and allow space for us to get our paper in, but also we want to create some light bounce in there, so it'll bounce around, so we'll kind of create an even light, as light as possible inside of our light box. So let me grab that paper real quick and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I have some paper here. I got some, you can use any type of white paper. Make sure it's white, but I have a little bit sturdier mixed media paper, kind of hold up a little bit better. If you have bigger paper, it doesn't really matter what size. You just want to close the hole on two sides. So I'm just going to put my paper on top here and tape it down. Now we have it on this side too. So now we have two sides taped down. All right, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna put the box aside for a second. The box is all prepped, it's ready to go. Put it aside. And what I wanna do is set up the area where I'm gonna be shooting my animation. So, clear off an area, and it's gotta be a big enough space for us to put our rig down and on the table and have it in a place where it's going to stay for a while the whole time. So you might not want to put it in the space where you draw or are painting, whatever. You want to have a separate space for your rig because you're not going to have enough space right on your desk there probably. So if you have a big desk, a big table like I do, then I'll kind of put this on the side. It might be, you put it, I've seen people put it on the floor, wherever there's a space you can leave your rig and leave it undisturbed and in the same place for a while is important. And another thing to think about, I'm actually on my porch right now, so if this was a sunny day, it would probably be a problem, but you want to be in a place where you can control the light a little bit, preferably an inside room away from windows. If it's at night, then it's less of a problem, but like during the day, if there's a lot of sunlight coming in, it's not really what we want. I have a lot of trees and stuff over here, so it doesn't really a problem over here, and it's a cloudy day, but just keep that in mind. You don't want to have your rig right next to a big open window where there's light coming in, because it's going to kind of start giving you some problems a little bit during the day or at certain times of the day. So I'm going to set up my rig over here, the surface over here. So what I want to do now is take a piece of paper, the same size paper that I'm going to use to animate on. This is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, pretty standard, and I'm going to place it down right here like this. And actually what I'm going to do first is take a little piece of tape, put it on, and put this down. Again, you want to give enough space from the edge of your table that you can put your rig down over it, and there's be some space on the edge. You don't want your rig leaning off the edge of the table or anything. So put this down. Now what I do is I take my tape, I tear a couple pieces which are longer than the sides, and I'm going to basically create a frame around this piece of paper. And this is going to allow me, when I have to put my paper in the drawings, that they're all going to be in the same place when we're going to have this registration. We talked about registration in class, and that's what we want to achieve with this. So it's important to try to keep this frame close to the edge so it's the same size as your paper. Put it on straight. We're going to create this little frame, and again, every time we put down a new frame, a new drawing, it's going to be in the same place as the last one, so our animation won't jump around too much. See now we have our frame, and I usually like to leave the paper sitting down there because when I put another paper down, I have a nice base. What you can see is that next time I put a piece of paper down, I have a nice way to register it. It can just lay in the same place, so I don't have to worry about my drawings jumping all over the place. Ta-da! Now that we've done that, we put this down. We want to do this first before we put the rig down, so we don't have, it's going to be hard to maneuver that once we put the rig down. So we're going to put the rig down on top of it. So I'm going to take my rig. You want to think where you're going to put your lamp, whether you're going to put it on which side. I'm going to put mine on that side, so the opening is there. So this is the time when you want to open up your phone, just so you can position your box correctly. So I'm taking my phone, my camera, you can see my camera, and I basically want to position it so that the frame, the paper inside, is centered within it. So you can move your box around a little bit to make sure that you get that effect. It's okay if you have some extra stuff on the side. You just want to make sure your whole paper is within the frame. You can crop your animation later, or you can zoom in or whatever you need to do. But that's the important thing to do, is to really get it centered. I'm going to take the tape, and I'm going to tape down my rig so it doesn't move. The last thing you want your rig to do is move. So there we have the animation rig is all taped down. You can see. Now what I want to do is get my lamp, and that's the last part of this. All right, so I have my lamps. I have these little LED directional lamps. You want to make sure you have a directional lamp. Any kind will be due. These are really inexpensive ones I bought, LED lamps I bought at Walmart. I think they were like $6 each. So it was good when I had in-person classes and I had lots of people. I'd have set up a bunch of these stations. You can use one, but I prefer to use two usually you can kind of position them to get a strong, even light. And kind of show you what that looks like. Kind of set it up here next to it, turn it on, and again, this is going to allow you to have a more even light inside. If you relied sort of on the ambient light from outside, you can cast all sorts of shadows, but this light will be stronger, and hopefully, again, if you use your set up your animation rig in a place where you can control the light, turn off the overhead lights, and so basically this will allow you to control the light and hopefully be nice and even and well lit inside, so when you shoot your animation, it's well lit and relatively evenly lit, and you can kind of play with the positioning of your lamps. One might be enough for you depending on your lamp, but two can be helpful too. You can kind of see that set up now. So what I'll do is I'll just draw quickly. Let's take my drawing. And I can place it right here inside the rig, have it lined up with the sides, so it's registered. And then I'd open up my stop motion studio. New movie. And voila, you can see I have that first frame set up. Take a shot. I should actually want to line it up a little bit better. There we go. Like so. Then I can put my next frame in there. And this is a 2-frame animation. We usually do more, but just for demo purposes. Well, maybe I'll draw a few more frames and show you guys. So, and again, now we have the next frame in there, and you can see. Shoot it, and so on and so forth, and then you have your animation, and you can see what it looks like. But this is how you set up a rig, this is how you build a rig, set it up, and shoot your animation. So it's a really easy, kind of cheap way to get started, just doing some fun animations. You can set one of these up, leave it on the side of your table, and whenever you feel like after dinner or when you're bored making a fun little animation, you can go and shoot it, and it'll always be completely registered. One important thing to know is do not move your camera in the midst of shooting a sequence because it'll get off register. This is how to set up and use sort of DIY animation rig, and I don't know how long this takes, maybe 15, 20 minutes, and as opposed to like buying something really expensive, which once you become fabulous animators you can do. But for now, this is great, something to play with, and great fun for the whole family. All right, well, thanks for joining, and hope you have fun animating. Thanks, bye.